We previously took a look at this source of financial data called the AlphaVantage API. Could someone just give me a recap? Like, what is this thing about? What's an API? We worked with the Drinks API in a previous class. So that's another example of an API. So what are these APIs about? Like the Cocktail DB API? Yeah, that's exactly right. So like these services provide us insight or interface into some database, some data storage somewhere. And we request this data through the internet. So basically you could think of an API as like a programmatic source of data, and we could write programs to make requests. So the benefits of using an API over manually using a service like Twitter, for example, is that we get to leverage the benefits of automation. So I guess I'll just kind of do this demo now. This is a remote server, a computer that's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I've set it up to collect tweets about Formula One racing. And so you could imagine, like, if I wanted to collect a Twitter data set about Formula One racing, I could manually log on to Twitter like every hour, every day, and try to like copy paste some of the tweets that I see there, but I'll only get a handful of them. And it'll take me a lot of time and manual effort to get that data. But if we connect to the data source through a programmatic source like an API, now that allows us to leverage the benefits of automation. And so you could just write a script like I did, and it is collecting all these tweets and stuff. And so I could just let it run and use my own time and attention on other things, leveraging those benefits of automation. So I guess while we're on the topic, I'm showing you a demo of some app that I wrote to fetch data from Twitter. And in today's agenda, you'll see a link to the repository source code that I'm using. So you could check out how it might be possible to do something like this. Anyway, here's a demo of leveraging the advantages of automation using an API. So anyway, we're talking about APIs here and their benefits. And we're just recapping, well, what the heck is an API? Okay, programmatic source of data. All right, cool. So previously we fetched drink information from this Cocktail DB, but I also introduced you to this source of financial data called the AlphaVantage API, which I just think is a really good service. So I've partnered with them and they've provided me with some credentials to share with you so that you can use all of their premium data endpoints. What's an endpoint? That's like a API specific terminology that we might use. When we say the term endpoint, like an API endpoint, what are we talking about? What the heck do we mean? Here we see for the AlphaVantage API in their documentation, they're going to give us documentation for each endpoint. We see a list of the endpoints here on the left. An API might give us different data. Like in this case, there's an endpoint for stock price. There's like 10 endpoints for stock prices. One, if we want to use weekly data, we'll make a request to this URL. Each endpoint is like its own URL provided by the API that we'll request data from. So in this exercise, the unemployment rates challenge, we are tasked with just asking the question, well, like, what's the latest unemployment rate? Can we get that programmatically using this API? Before we go doing that in code, why might it be beneficial for us to like write a program to get the latest unemployment rate, for example, as opposed to like manually just kind of looking it up? Yeah, it depends on like the scale of our data, also the refresh frequency. I guess for the unemployment rate endpoint that we'll take a look at here in a minute, it's only on a monthly basis. So technically, really, like every month we could kind of like manually just update our data. But if you think about our ability to automate something, then what we could do, for example, is upload this code to a server and just schedule the server to like check for the newest unemployment data like every day. And so we'll know exactly when we have new data. So anyway, it might be beneficial in some cases to like ask for this data programmatically.